Welcome back. We're having some technical difficulties. We appreciate everyone letting us know about the audio problems. Please chime in and comment if you still cannot hear us. Obviously my mouth is moving, so hopefully you can hear us and the volumes really well. Again, maybe the second time's a charm. We'd like to welcome you to our next Facebook Live session. We are with Chief Matt Baskell this evening. Again, we are going to be looking forward to 2017, seeing some exciting programs and getting some information about the department. We are giving you a chance to ask Chief Baskell questions live here on Facebook, as well as looking back on 2016 and how that year went. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Baskell to introduce himself.
Hi there. Not sure where this thing broke up the first time around, so again, I just want to say thank you to all of our citizens for all the community support that we do receive here at the police department. Reiterating that fact because it just has been an extraordinary year for us at the department to receive the amount of support we did during this last year, which was a pretty trying year for law enforcement all around. So to that, I say thank you, and we'll do our best to answer your questions as we move forward. And if we don't get to your question, we'll do our best to answer it off air as well. One of the things that I wanted to put out there and let the people know is that the police department last year handled almost 90,000 calls for service between those calls that were called into the police department and the ones that were generated by officers on their own, which we call self-initiated traffic. So it was quite a busy year. The department is growing. The city itself is growing. Our last population estimate was 108,000 for 2016, and we anticipate that number could hit 113,000 here in the very near future due to the growth that's occurring in the city. So with that comes challenges for the police department to maintain that service level that we want to maintain for you, the citizens. Some of our goals that we set for ourselves every year to put out to the citizens is to be the safest city in the valley, to keep our response times to priority 1 calls less than 5 minutes, and to keep our satisfaction rating to you, the citizens, at 90% or better. So we've been very fortunate. We've been able to meet those goals. But like I said, as the city grows and as we grow, those are going to be our challenges going forward.
We have a time limit of 30 minutes that we're going to be working with approximately. Most of the viewers that we've found are going to be watching this video after the fact. So what we will be doing is answering your questions live here on Facebook. We will get to as many as possible. If we don't get to your question, we're not skipping over you on purpose. We will answer them eventually, whether Chief Baskell answers them live or whether we answer them overnight or tomorrow via commenting on Facebook. So again, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about our Re-Upped Canine program?
Yeah, this will be an exciting year for us as well. In 2010, the canine program for the police department went away due to budget cuts, as did a lot of things that were affected in many cities, with the reduction of police officers and the reduction of services, and the canine was one of those units that went away. This year, I'm glad to say that we're going to be bringing the canine unit back. That's a big deal for law enforcement to have working dogs on the streets. We currently have 1 narcotics dog, and then we're going to be bringing back a total of 5 other dogs to be working the streets as canines for our department. So that'll happen throughout the year. We're currently in the midst of raising funds to purchase those dogs, and then once we reach those goals, then hopefully we'll have some new dogs out on the streets by middle of the year.
Our first question is going to be from Sue Colby. She's complaining of some traffic issues around elementary schools specifically. Can you give us some examples of what our traffic enforcement team is working to help that?
Yeah, anytime you have a traffic complaint, you can always call that into the police department, and we'll do our best to get a traffic unit out there. We take those very seriously. Anytime there's traffic complaints that come in, we do our best to go out and work those details to try and deter the speeding or whatever the poor driving behavior is around the schools. Especially around the schools, it's very important to us to, maintain the safety of the children out there. So feel free to call in and let us know if there is a traffic problem, and we'll do our best to get motor officers out there to work that area.
We figured this topic would come up. Rich Contreras is asking about the the uptick in what he's noticed of the vehicle burglaries. As you probably saw on Facebook, we just yesterday or the day before put out a press release that we solved 16 of them by arresting a couple by the amazing work from one of our dispatchers and also patrol. If you can give the followers a couple of tips he'd like to know about maybe how to decrease a vehicle burglary in their area.
Yeah, the big thing we can ask the public is to not leave anything in your vehicle. Typically what we find is that the vehicle burglars, they drive up and down the street and they get out and they're just looking to find something that's sitting visible within a vehicle. If your car's unlocked, that's even more of a target. So, we ask you to lock your cars and do not leave anything in your vehicles. I mean, sometimes at our gyms, people drive through the lots and watch people put things away, and then they become victims. But we did see an uptick in vehicle burglaries this year. I think we saw it, pretty much around surrounding areas as well. And, we keep doing our best, and we arrest a lot of people for burglary. But I do think that along with this, there's a product of Prop 47 and some of the issues we're dealing with now with Prop 57, which has to do with narcotics offenses and misdemeanors and some of the changes that were made up in Sacramento this past year, which just presented more challenges for us to work on going forward. So vehicle burglaries right now are our #1 priority in working on, and we've dedicated a whole team just to go out and work on these right now. And as like Ty said, we had 9 arrests over the weekend associated with vehicle burglars and a crew that was working together.
That's some great news, by the way. One thing I'd like to mention is as we monitor social media, Facebook, Nextdoor, Twitter, and whatnot, we really encourage you, if you see something in your area and you think it's suspicious, wait for that social media post. While they are important to notify your neighbors, get us out there as quickly as possible. If you think it's a crime in progress, you can dial 911. Otherwise, our non-emergency number is available 24 hours a day. Get on the phone, talk to the dispatcher, and get the officers out there.
Yeah, if you see a burglary happen or if you're concerned, you can always call 911. That would be the easiest way to get a hold of us, and by all means, especially if a crime's occurring, we want you to use it.
Something that just happened a couple hours ago. Christine Evans is wondering what happened at Willow and Knees with the collision.
I have very limited details on that myself. I know that it was a traffic accident that involved a Fresno police vehicle that was responding to a call for service with his lights and sirens on, but I don't know the circumstances surrounding what actually caused the collision or who caused the collision or anything like that at this time.
Okay. Annette Simon would like to know how they can report someone possibly either dealing drugs or doing drugs in their neighborhood. Would you recommend Crime Stoppers or a non-emergency line?
Yeah, they can. There's several options. As you mentioned, Crime Stoppers, you can always call 498-STOP for an anonymous tip. You can call the police department, and you can remain anonymous with us as well if you want to just give us the information. You can leave that with the dispatch center as well. Or if you want to speak to a detective or a narcotics officer, you can let dispatch know that you want to talk to somebody in charge of narcotics, and they will give you can give them the information. But a lot of times with these types of tips, we understand that people want to remain confidential, and that's okay. Just get us the information so that we can do the best we can to work on the problem.
Definitely, that's a very good tip. Susan and Robert would like to know, are there any specific ways that we plan on raising funds for the K-9 unit, or who to contact?
Yeah, well, it's you can contact Lieutenant Dan Sullivan, and his email is dans@cityofclovis.com. Dan is our lieutenant who's in charge of the K-9 unit, and any ideas you have are welcome to us. We have been talking with particular businesses that are come in support of helping with this, which is great. Granville Homes has given us a generous donation to get the program started again, and and anything that anybody wants to do to help, we're more than willing to talk to them about it. Definitely. Thank you for that.
Ann Smith is a little bit concerned about drones. She'd like to know who she can contact. Are we the ones who enforce those laws, or what she should do when she sees one?
Well, drones are very, it's kind of a hot topic right now because the question is, when does it become invasion of someone's privacy? And so if you have a concern about the drone, if it's flying over your house or in your, over your backyard or something of that nature, then definitely call the police department and we can look at an invasion of privacy type of issue, whether it's a trespassing or something along those lines. Right now, there's legislation that's being suggested in Sacramento regarding drones, but the fact that somebody's flying a drone, if it's in a public space, is not illegal. So, I mean, there's some requirements that come into play with the FAA, you know, as far as how high you can fly them and not to interfere with aircraft and those kind of things. But if it's just somebody flying a drone in an open area that's open to the public, then there's nothing illegal about that.
Jill is asking, and this may be a good time to touch on officer hiring. She'd like to know if we plan on assigning more units to our traffic division, but you can also add new hires as well. Any plans on that?
Yeah, currently, actually this week I made 4 job offers for police officers, which is really encouraging. The department is really rebuilding from the Great Recession that we all went through. You know, at one point the police department had 116 officers. During the recession era, we went down to 91 officers. And as the population and everything has grown, we've been working really hard to rebuild the department through, you know, our city manager's office and the city council. And right now we're authorized to have 106 officers. We're at 100. I just made 4 job offers, so we're getting close to hitting that number of 106. And yes, building our traffic division is something we are very much looking to want to do. It's been on the, you know, I hate to say radar as a pun, but it's been on our radar for some time to build that unit. And over the next year or 2 years, you should see that unit probably double in size as we move forward.
Okay.
Providing we're able to continue to move forward with hiring more people.
Definitely. Another hot button issue sometimes matting on the area are guns. David would like to know how we will be enforcing new gun laws that have gone into effect, or what our plans are for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we really don't have any specific plans to enforce gun laws. You know, I mean, if somebody is violating the law and it's part of another crime, or if somebody tells us that a person has violated the law and it's associated with a gun, then obviously we're going to take action on that. I think for people to, I don't want people to think that because there's a new gun laws that are put in place that the Clovis Police Department is going to be writing search warrants because somebody bought their gun legally. That is obviously not the case. We are not in that type of business. Now, if somebody commits a crime and one of those gun laws happens to be a violation as well, then obviously we would enforce the law at that time. But yeah, our intention isn't to be doing search warrants on houses for people that bought their guns legally. And that question comes up from time to time.
Definitely. Don has a question in regards to commercial burglaries. Apparently his business has been the victim of one. Can you touch on what the process is, what we do to investigate, and is there anything specifically that we are doing to fight commercial burglaries?
Yeah, well, commercial burglaries come in 2 forms, really. I mean, we have the, you know, I'll use the retail thefts that occur where people go within with the intent to steal things, steal merchandise from those retail outlets while they're open. And then we have the other burglaries that occur when the business is closed and somebody smashes a window or something along those lines. Anything that we can get from an evidentiary value that can help us lead to that suspect, we work to the fullest. You know, those businesses, we encourage businesses to have camera systems in place. Anytime we can get a video, we do our best to put those out to our media outlets as well as on our social media to show pictures of the suspect. And that is extremely successful for us when we're able to get videos out, because people, you know, they call us or they call Crime Stoppers, and we get to get our leads that way. You know, we still do the old-fashioned getting fingerprints, those kind of things as well. So we, you know, it's kind of one of the things we've seen already at the beginning of the year is we have seen a couple of commercial burglaries related to cigarettes. So, you know, with the tax increase on cigarettes, it's become, you know, for lack of a better term, it's become, you know, gold in some senses because it's so expensive for cigarettes. Now we're starting to see an uptick in people actually stealing those. So for those stores that have those things, that's something to be wary of.
We're getting an overwhelming amount of comments about thanking us for your for our service and protecting you guys. We really do love our job. We wouldn't be here if we didn't. I can't name all the people right now that are commenting, but it's about every third comment. We really do appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Martinez wants to know if we have a specific policy on elder abuse, and are they removed like children when there's an abuse that's found, or how do we work with elder abuse specifically?
Well, elder abuse, yeah, it definitely is a crime that we investigate, and depending on the circumstances, we'll do our best to help that person. You know, the person who's the victim of elder abuse, it just really depends on the circumstances. We don't want to remove them from their home if they're the victim, if we don't have to. If we have certain circumstances that require us to get adult protective services in to help place somebody to remove them from the abuse or things along those lines, then we most definitely will do that. You know, and we have other resources out there as well. I mean, there are times where maybe the Marjorie Mason Center comes into play to help us along those lines, especially with domestic violence. We use the Marjorie Mason Center a lot. So, but far as elder abuse goes, then yeah, there's a couple different things we would look at, and it would be the totality of the circumstances. But you know, that's again, if anybody suspects somebody of being a victim of elder abuse, we strongly encourage you to call us so we can come out and, you know, take a look, because nobody should have to go through that.
Jennifer Perez Ward wants to know, are there any specific plans to fix the homeless or transient problem, specifically around Peach or Ashland and Shaw area?
Yeah, our homeless population tends to grow and then go back down, and it kind of goes back and forth a little bit as far as the numbers go. We have a person who is dedicated specifically to working homeless in our city, and our first and foremost priority is to try and get that person help. If we can get them into a shelter, if we can get them into a facility with lodging or something along those lines, we do our best to do that. Not everybody who is homeless wants shelter or wants the services that are provided, and then at that point, if there's criminal behavior that's involved with the person, then we will arrest the person for the criminal behavior that occurs. But you know, our main goal is to try and help that person first if we can. Like I said, not everybody wants that. But to answer your question about the homeless issue as it arises, we do have an officer that's assigned to that full time to work on those resources, as well as he works on mental health issues that are within the city as well.
Sue Colby wants to know if you think residential cameras deter theft, and going along those topics, are there any other things that homeowners can do to maybe deter theft in their neighborhood? And we can touch on the Community Watch program maybe.
Yeah, the Community Watch program is one way. Whenever neighbors get together and they communicate with each other and communicate with the police department, that's always the best tool. And it's like I said, we rely on you, the citizens, to let us know when there's things occurring so that we can deal with the problems. So we strongly encourage all of our citizens to call if you think, even if you think there's something maybe going on, so that we can try and deal with the problem. As far as camera systems and stuff go, and I'm not throwing a plug in for Costco, but you know, they have camera systems for $300 that you can put on your house that are really good camera systems that you know, will capture things. And anything that you do, whether it's a screen door that has you know, an extra security door feature, or locks on your gates, or cameras, anything that looks like a deterrent is only going to help you from being a victim down the road. And one of the other things I want to mention too is, you know, communicating with your neighbors. If you don't know who your neighbors are, you know, it's a good thing to get out and meet them. And so if any of you are interested in starting a Community Watch program, or getting it used to be called Neighborhood Watch, I think now it's Community Watch, let us know. You can contact the police department or send us a message here, and we'll get back to you on it.
Nextdoor is also a great social media platform that we have available. We do participate in that. Myself and Sergeant Jim Monroe are on there weekly regarding tips, information that neighbors need to know, and we can also provide that on Facebook as well. Brian has some questions regarding DUIs, specifically regarding marijuana related or drug related. He's asking if we have the training or equipment to check for DUIs from marijuana or other specific drugs.
Yes. One of the things that we look for when it comes to, you know, there's obviously alcohol remains the same. You have the intoxilizers that you use out in the field, what we call PAS devices. And then the new thing is which is kind of being tossed around up in Sacramento, and we're actually trying it on a trial basis, but it has to go through being accepted as through the court system, as well as what they call DNA swabbing, where you can just take a Q-tip, swab somebody's cheek, and you can get a THC content as it relates to marijuana. This is new technology. It's stuff that, like I said, this isn't necessarily something that's completely accepted by the courts yet, but it is something from a chief's perspective that we're supporting. I know that marijuana is now legal. Recreational marijuana is now legal for people over 21, but there are still a lot of laws that pertain to the use of marijuana and how it's used. You know, the unfortunate part is we've had, you know, our most recent fatal accidents that have occurred in our city. You know, THC has played a part in those. Now, is that what caused the accident? No, I can't say that, but it is something we're going to monitor and keep track of, because, you know, we expect that the use will go up within our community.
It's definitely a fluid issue. Tu Veng is asking if we accept interns, and maybe not necessarily interns, but volunteers, and if so, how he would apply to be one.
Yeah, volunteers, we're always accepting volunteers. We have a pretty healthy volunteer program. They put in thousands of hours throughout the year for us. Again, that's something that we'll follow up with you, and I can get you the phone number of the right person to contact regarding our volunteers. But Lieutenant Fleming is our lieutenant in charge of the volunteer program, so you can always call the police department and ask for him. And you can call the non-emergency number 324-2800 and ask for Lieutenant Fleming, and he'll get back to you regarding the program.
David Austin wants to know if we accept ride-alongs. The answer is yes, and if so, what the procedure is in order to ride with an officer.
Yeah, if you want to do a ride-along, you can come to the front counter of the police department and fill out a form, and they will get back to you and schedule a time and a date based on your availability as well as the availability of the officers. We do get a lot of people who request to do ride-alongs with our department, so we kind of have to schedule them out. You just typically can't show up the day of and do a ride-along. But yeah, you can always come to the front counter of the police department between 8 and 3, get a form, fill it out, and then we do what we call, we do a mini background check on everybody before they go out in a police car, and then we set up an appointment for you to do that.
Another canine question from Shelley Prince. They're asking that they notice canine vehicles sometimes parked outside unattended. They want to be assured that canine vehicles have a backup system or temperature control, something to that effect that protects the dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And for our dogs, we definitely have what they call a cooling system inside of the vehicle. So it's not running just on the central air of the air conditioning itself. There's actually, like what we call it, it's a chili dog system that goes in the back of the vehicle to keep the dog cool. And there's actually an alarm system that's associated that the officers wear that are canine handlers on their belts, so that if for some reason they are away from the vehicle and the car starts to overheat, the alarm bells go off so that the officer can respond out to get to his dog before something bad happens.
Steve Rosa is asking about if we've received any feedback on our vacation house check program, positive or negative, and if we have any planned changes for that.
No real planned changes, but most of the information that I've gotten on our vacation house checks has been very positive. People who do sign up for that do get the service. We do go by, we do check their houses. The volunteer program is a big part of doing that and making sure that, people's houses are secure while they're gone. So we encourage people to sign up for vacation house check, and we do follow up with it, and we do check your houses.
That's actually one of my responsibilities when you request a vacation house check, whether it's on the internet, on our website, or on our mobile app, or even by calling dispatch. It's entered in for our patrol volunteers, and we will get back to you and close the request once you return home. Usually there's not any dialogue between the city and the resident before vacation, but we always follow up afterwards. There's a good question: how do we prepare our officers, or do we prepare our officers for active shooter situations? Yes,
we do. One of the things that we take very seriously is training, and we're always looking for new ways to train at the police department. We do active shooter training on a fairly regular basis. We also have a team of people who are that keep updated on new technology, new techniques, new tactics that are out there for officers, as well as we work with Clovis Unified School District. Over the past few years, we've provided training to teachers, we provided training to janitors, bus drivers, everybody that's associated with the school districts themselves, as well as all of the city employees too. So we do take that very seriously still. God forbid ever that happens, but we do train on it.
Justin actually has a question about a CCW permit. Do we issue them, or how about, at least in Fresno County, one would go applying for one?
Yeah, we don't issue CCWs here at the Clovis Police Department. I believe very strongly with the sheriff and her beliefs of giving out CCWs to citizens, but you need to go through the sheriff's department to get a CCW, and I'm not sure of the phone number for that, but if you contact the sheriff's department, they have a whole unit assigned to assigning CCWs for people. So if you are interested in that, you need to do it sooner than later, because there is a wait period that usually takes a couple months to get through the process due to the backlog of people wanting their CCWs.
I know this isn't a well-known issue with at least the public, but all the department knows we are counseled on it constantly, and it's a really good reminder. Can you go into our department goals for the department and explain the top three that is our concern, and that we basically remember on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think I started off talking about it a little bit, but it's our response times within 5 minutes for priority 1 traffic. It's being able to have our citizen satisfaction surveys at 90% or greater, and to be the safest city in the valley. And we measure that safest city in the valley based on the California Crime Index numbers that are used, and compare it with the cities in our area and stuff. And we're all of us cities are doing our best to fight crime. So it's a tool for us to use. It's what we strive for, as does everybody else in our valley. So as an agency, we strive for that, but I can tell you we all work together in the Central Valley to try and prevent crime.
One question is, do we have a program especially for youth as far as counseling, or what are the options or services for the younger population?
Yeah, we have a youth services division that we've had for several years here at the police department, and youth services does a lot of different things. Whether it's from helping adults with or helping families with children who may be teenagers who's out of control, or who does a minor crime. Instead of putting them in the system, maybe they do work detail for the city. But at that said, we strongly encourage families that if they're having issues, or if there's depression issues, or if they're just upset about something, they can still contact the police department. And we have a clinical licensed social worker here at the PD who provides services and helps people. And maybe it's just having that conversation with that with the teenager or the parents or whatever it may be, to help them get through a situation. So yeah, absolutely. If there's things that the youth population just needs help getting through with, we definitely provide that service through our youth services division.
Just a couple more questions, Chief. Justin wants to know how he would go about applying for an officer if we put people through the academy, and what his options are, at least with the Clovis Police Department.
Yeah, what we started this year was a cadet program. Well, we've had cadets for a while, but this part of the cadet program is to actually send people through the academy. So it's important to probably watch for that opening to come up. We just finished interviews for that cadet position, and we have some people that we're looking to send through the academy for to hire here in the next 3 to 6 months. So when that batch goes through, and when another academy opportunity arises based on our availability of police officer positions, then we'll again look to send more people through the academy under that cadet role. That's one of the few things you can actually go through where you get paid to go to the academy. Other than that, we look at people who put themselves through the academy, and most of the people we do hire typically have put themselves through the academy, and we pick up.
Armando wants to know how many years of service we have, so I'll start with you. How many years have you been in law enforcement?
I have been with the Clovis Police Department I just finished my 26th year, so yeah, I'm still not 50 yet.
I'm on about 17 years. paid. Chuck Klein wants to know if Vince Leonardo is still with the department.
Yes, he is. Yeah, Vince is still with the department, and he's our deputy chief.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up the Facebook Live session. Again, we understand that most of you will be viewing this after the fact, so a lot of the questions will be verbalized with Chief Pascal, and we did get to several of them, most of them actually. We did have to skip just a couple of them, either because they were repeats or we just didn't have time to do it. I promise you we will be answering those in the next 24 hours or less, so please stay tuned. Again, as always, we are here on our mobile app 24 hours a day at Clovis Police Department Mobile, and our Facebook page, Twitter account, Instagram, and Nextdoor. I'll turn it over to the Chief for some closing statements. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you, the citizens. And, you know, as always, if there's questions or concerns that you have, you can always contact the police department, and we'll do our best to meet those needs. Thank you.